Welcome into our next installment of Talking with Our Elected Officials. This is not the Gulf Coast Growth Show, but it might as well be. We're in the studio, the Chevron studio here. I'm very fortunate today to be here with our Senator Mays Middleton from Senate District 11. My name is Chad Burke. I am president of the Economic Alliance Houston Port Region and get to have these great conversations. And so we will jump right in and welcome. Welcome,
Thank
Senator.
you. Thank you for having me on today. Appreciate it.
I know you guys have been very busy this entire year. Got a little reprieve after the trial. And then from what I hear, they're about to call you back, next week? October the 9th.
Yeah. We thought we were going to be done at end of May, and now it's going to Halloween.
Well, that's right. So you started in January. You work, pre-session work all last year, and then you start in January, go through end of April, May, and then they call you back in the summer. And so that leads me into my first point of conversation or question for you. Give us a little insight into the life of a state senator, right? Because every other year you're leaving town, work, and headed up to Austin to begin working on making our state laws.
We know that our founding fathers set it up correctly, which we're a citizens legislature. We're not full time like Congress. Mm-hmm. We meet every other year, and that's intended to really do the right thing, where you have to go back the community, your wife, kids, family, go back to your business, and we get paid $600 a month. Yeah, it's a big wage that y'all earn up there in Austin, right? Everyone's doing it for the big bucks. Yeah.
Probably doesn't pay for parking, I suspect.
It's not much, but that's what the purpose is. This is a citizens legislature. This is not a full-time political job, and I'm glad it's not. I don't think that would work very well. I think definitely the right way is to make sure that, you meet every other year, you get the state's business done in that kind of little short window between January and May, and then you go back home.
Yeah.
And I think that helps get things done more efficiently. Also, it prevents us from turning out like Congress.
Yeah.
We're there full time,
constantly making laws.
What are they getting done? That's always the question.
I love the dynamic where our state legislators come back to the district and live with the laws that they've passed, and then get the feedback and the results. And you're like, okay, yeah, well, I need to tweak that, or hey, this is a great idea. This is working great. So you're part of the community that you're legislating over.
That's right. Yeah. And I'm in the community. You see, those same values that we're fighting for in Austin, faith, family, and freedom. And we're reminded of them every day, where, in the Senate chamber, we've got two big paintings back. One of them is the Alamo, and one of them is the Battle of San Jacinto, which is right here in Senate District 11, April the 21st, 1836. So you're reminded of what we fought for, and that those God-granted freedoms aren't free.
Very good.
Freedom's never free.
Very good. Well, let's jump into what you've done this year's session. So moving into this year, what were your goals? What were your goals headed into the session here in 2023?
We had a lot of them. That's part of the downside of meeting every other year, is you have all these things that need to get done. Right. Yeah. So you kind of build this long list up of things that need to happen. Of course, one of them we got done on the second called special, which was property tax relief, $18 billion of property tax relief, because we knew we were going to have a huge surplus because the sales tax revenues and severance taxes, which is oil and gas, were so high. So, whose money is that? It's the taxpayers. Government doesn't have any money. It's all taxpayer money. So that was one of the top goals this session is how to give that back to the people that it belongs to, which is the taxpayers.
Well, as a state, it's a great problem to have, but it's a great solution that you guys came up with to push that money back to taxpayers and businesses. And we appreciate that. As an economic development corporation trying to grow businesses, create jobs, we really appreciate that. And that goes a long way when companies are evaluating whether to spend, $500 million, $1 billion on a facility. So what are those tax ramifications of that here in Texas? So we appreciate that.
We want to be the freest, most prosperous state in America, and we've been successful at that so far. We just need to keep fighting to make sure that we remain that future. I mean, you think of our Port of Houston and Houston Ship Channel is about $1 trillion in economic impact right there.
Yeah. Yeah. So out of this session, what were you most proud of? What was your greatest accomplishment that you got to work on or do?
We had a lot of victories. It's hard to pick one. Okay. That's difficult to pick. It's like, what's your favorite child?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've got 4, so there's no right answer to that. All is the right answer. But, some of the things that I was particularly proud of being able to pass into law was the Save Women's Sports Act. Was one of them. Yeah. Making sure that we ensure fairness in women's collegiate athletics and that men are not unfairly competing against women and stealing, athletic records, stealing scholarships, places on teams, hard-earned spots on teams. Just making sure that we stand up for what's fair and what's right. And then also another piece of legislation that I just talked about earlier today that we're able to pass into law was putting chaplains in our public schools.
That's right. I've heard you talk about that.
So we were able to get that passed this past session. There are so many other things that we were able to accomplish this session, standing up for kids, making sure that parents have the right to audit curriculum, instructional materials. I mean, just the list is long, but, and it's hard to pick the exact favorite, that we did get done, but we've got more to come too, because we've got a special session coming up on October the 9th.
Well, as with the Economic Alliance, we, most of our white paper issues circle around business, job creation, those types of infrastructure, moving people and product through this region. So we don't often weigh in on social issues. But personally, I want to thank you for the Fairness in Sports Act that y'all passed. It's just as a lifelong sports advocate and coach and uncle to about 10 nieces that play volleyball and swimming and track and all these other things. I just want to say thank you for really trying to protect our young women and their ability to compete in sports. So that's my one little snippet off of the economic development page. But thank you for that.
Yeah. And I've got a daughter. She's 2, and we want fairness for all the daughters of this great state. That's what we're standing for.
So now let's look forward. Tell us a little bit about the call for the next special session, and then your expectations as we kind of move through that, because I know it will be difficult to try and get where you want to go there.
We have, a number of things that we think are going to be on the call. It's not official yet. I hadn't checked my phone since lunch, but so I haven't seen it yet. But what we do know is that educational opportunity and educational choice are going to be on the call. We also know teacher pay raise is going to be on the call as well to provide, that extra funding for our excellent public school teachers that we've got, whether that's $2,000 or $6,000 pay raise or bonus to be determined. But, that's what it was in the regular session. Either $2,000 or $6,000, depending on the size of the district. And, border security issues as well. We know that we've had over 8 million people cross into the United States illegally since January of 2021. We've got a true crisis. It is an invasion. Border security is national security, period. So we're going to have some sort of legislation. Don't know exactly what's on the call for that either. But, on educational choice, that's always been near and dear to my heart and my wife's heart as well. And that is providing opportunity. Because, America was founded on equality of opportunity. We give people and teach people the tools that they need to succeed, to go get a job, provide for their family, stay in the community, live in the community. And I think that's what educational choice does, is because every child's unique, every child is different. And when you've got money following the child and a parent deciding which type of education works best for them, it's always going to work out better. And that's really what school choice is about. It's trusting the moms and dads of our communities. I think it's great, obviously, for the economy as well, because, these are a lot of kids that they struggle in school. We're wealthier families, they have school choice right now. We're talking about everyone else, our middle and low income families. And this will give them tools that they need to succeed. And then also it will carry on past that, where like community colleges have always been a top priority of mine. We were able to pass dual credit funding. this session, which allows the state but the first time the state will pay for dual credit for our public school students to attend community colleges while they're still in high school. So that's a huge tool.
And that's a critical component to the workforce development that we do here in the Port region, because our community colleges really feed just a vast majority of the workers that work in this region. Those 2-year degrees are really the ticket into the petrochemical industry, the industrial contracting, the maritime, the supply chain logistics, all of those, the bulk, I would probably say 80-85% of the folks that work in and around making product, moving product, can get there with a 2-year degree. And if a student can access that dual credit while they're in high school and come out at 18, 19 years old with a skill and an associate's degree already ready to go to work, and that helps us out tremendously in this region. It makes us competitive when we're competing for those large cap dollars, whether it's Louisiana, South Texas, Mexico, China, Singapore. When we have that built-in workforce that we support with our education infrastructure, if you will, then we can compete for those dollars.
And it's America's energy independence. I mean, where else can you go anywhere in the world where you go to a community college for 2 years and you get a PTech certificate, and then you're making over $100,000 a year shortly thereafter? You know, I mean, that's American and Texas exceptionalism right there. And we need to do more of that.
Yeah.
And our community colleges do that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I talked about the economic impact of our port related industries, and, oil and gas, of course, is a big component of that. And, I've got 3 boys, and, we like to watch the ships around Bolivar Roads there, headed out low in the water, meaning they got full of product.
Fully loaded.
And I said, look, that's us, America and Texas, taking money from countries that don't like us.
That's right.
And we need to do more of that and not less. And, that's why it's so important to make sure that we have these career-based tools in our community. So we're providing that to the next generation. So, you don't make anyone use the tools, but they're available.
Absolutely.
And they graduate with less student debt as well, that they can actually pay off and turn it into a career and a job that will be able to provide for their family, and buy a home and be successful in the community.
You're talking about on average $6,000 for a 2-year degree at any of our great schools around here. And that's if they're not being funded while they're going dual credit, right? And then they don't have that. So, I mean, it is the affordable avenue to get into the workforce. It really is. So appreciate your work on that as well.
It's a great tool. And, I always have had a top priority for our community colleges. I hope someday they can teach any 4-year degree they want. Right now, they can offer 5 4-year degrees. I'd like to be that as many as they want.
Wow.
And because, look, let's be honest, community colleges are not teaching 19th century Russian literature.
No.
They're actually providing the type of education that people need to go out, have a career, not just a job, but a high paying career.
Correct.
So it's really important, and it will always continue to be a top priority of mine to make sure our community colleges have those tools and workforce related tools that they need.
Excellent. Well, let's finish up with this. Speaking of our regional economy and how it all works. So how can we continue to work together, as the Economic Alliance with you? One of our we've got 2 senators, you and Senator Alvarado, that kind of cover all of our footprint. How can we continue to work with you to grow this regional economy and continue to add those capital investment and those jobs that we're looking for in here?
The keys are low tax and low regulation.
Absolutely.
On that first item there, we did $18 billion in property tax relief this past session. So that will lower your school tax rate about 24%, which is for everyone. That's not just homeowners. That's for businesses, large and small. We need to make sure that we stay low regulation environment and make sure that ESG is not taking a foothold in the state of Texas. Environmental and social governance targets the oil and gas industry, singles them out, and tries to deny them the capital that they need to thrive and grow. Because as we know, you look at the businesses up and down the port, that's incredibly capital intensive. And they know that if they dry up the capital, they're drying up the businesses and the jobs. So we've got to make sure that we defend that and make sure the state of Texas has stood strong to stop ESG, but there's always more to do, right? So in 2021, we passed the ban on ESG for state political subdivisions and also state contracting. Of course, there's always new and different ways of trying to get around that. So it's an ongoing battle to make sure, that our oil and gas industry, our petrochemical industry remains successful and is not singled out by, Washington, D.C. policies that are frankly anti-Texan.
Yeah, it's like we're always playing defense to try and maintain the opportunity for our companies to do what they do best, which is make good products and employ people, right? And
That's right.
So we have to be vigilant, right? And to keep this economy going. So,
and maintaining our infrastructure as well. TxDOT made a record investment in inside the gates port infrastructure, which they've never done before. This past session, that's never happened. And also we funded the Ship Channel Revolving Fund, which allows local ports to basically match the federal funds. In other words, it's a match the match of the local funds to make those dredging projects more economic and more available to our ports to make sure they're maintaining their depth. Because we all know what happens when it starts to silt in. Yeah. You lose that draft and business goes away at some point.
Yeah, no,
you're
absolutely.
not maintaining your channels.
Yeah, it's whether it's on the water or on the roads, our infrastructure, our ability to very efficiently, cost effectively move product. So we're not lightering ships, off just to bring them up the ship channel. And then, on the roadside, once you get that product off of a ship or out of a facility and you're taking it to a ship or rail, we've been working with TxDOT for we've probably been working at least 4, maybe 5 years now on the redevelopment or what we need to do with Highway 225. So TxDOT started their PEL study, the Planning, Environmental, and Linkages study a couple of years ago, finally came out with the alternatives about 2 months ago. We're still going through kind of the public hearing, but several of those alternatives look like they will work for us. It's going to be a big ask. It's going to be in the billions of dollars to redevelop 225 to add the capacity. But TxDOT is working on that. And, I know that you're in support of those type of projects that really kind of bring that infrastructure to this region. And we'll be continuing to kind of work with them and move them in the right direction that fills out this region so we don't become victims of our own congestion.
Right. Rail is very important to that as
Absolutely.
well. So
Absolutely.
We have a lot of work to do to make sure our rail system is more efficient, especially with our TEU business that has been skyrocketing. Yeah. Well, any final comments you want to put out there based on where you are in the year and what's left to go? Or I appreciate you having me on today. Yeah. There's always something big, in the great state of Texas to address because, we have the grit to get it done. You see it after a hurricane where we all come together to help each other. And, here locally, this past, I guess it was January when we had the tornado.
Right
through
Deer Park
and Deer Park community come together to help each other. And there are no limits to what we can accomplish in this great state. So I'm looking forward to the battles ahead. And I think of, our forefathers and what they fought for and what they were up against. On April the 21st, 1836, everyone had just died at the Alamo and everyone had been killed. Goliath.
Yep.
And yet they persisted.
Yeah.
And we will persist no matter what the federal government throws up against us.
Well, I really appreciate your service, appreciate the time and really just everything that you put into it, leaving work and traveling up to Austin every other year and just all the time and energy you put into service for Senate District 11. So we really appreciate it. Thank you for the time that you've given us today. We'll see you up in Austin soon, I'm sure. So with that, we'll wrap it up and saying thanks to Senator Mays Middleton from Senate District 11. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Thank you for having me on.